Good evening and welcome to the Norwood Conservation Commission meeting tonight, Wednesday, August 14th at 7:30 p.m. If anybody else is recording tonight's meeting, just let us know now, please. As we've done in the remote and hybrid environment, I'm going to start with an opening roll call. I'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members and just ask you to verbally confirm your attendance tonight, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is here. Catherine Walsh.
Here.
Anil Prasad.
Here.
Joseph Pitti.
Here.
And Kelsey Quinlan.
Here.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Let's see. Tonight on the agenda, we'll start with public hearings, starting with map 22, sheet 8, parcels 8 through 14. This is Boston Providence Turnpike Notice of Intent DEP file number 251-0563. Norwood number is going to be 2024-09. Applicant is Peter Cantonese. This is 141 Boston Providence Highway LLC, represented by Zachary Richards of Bollard Engineering. Project description looks to be a construction of gravel access drive, small parking area, and improvements to existing culvert for development of Christmas tree farm and buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. How are we doing tonight?
Great. How are you? Thank you, Commission, for the time tonight. My name is Zachary Richards. I'm a senior project manager with Bollard Engineering. And as mentioned, representing Peter Cantonese with 141 Boston Providence Highway LLC. The existing site and proposed project here is a unique one in front of you tonight. We're looking to do a Christmas tree farm in a parcel or several parcels of land along the east side of Providence Highway or Route 1. It's located across from the New Car, Toyota, Honda dealerships, just a little north of Norwood Country Club to kind of situate you since there's no formal address. There's existing BVW located along the east side of the site. That was formalized by a delineation in June 19th of 2019 under an ORAD and a delineation by Goldman Environmental Consultants. And then that was later extended on September 13th in 2023 following a COVID extension as well. So that's the delineation that's reflected on the plans. If we're able to share the plan, I can walk you through the proposed program here. But essentially there's an existing curb cut that you will see located along the east side of Route 1.
Death spiral. Intelligence.
And what we're proposing is a small gravel parking area. Again, the intent here, you can see it's a bit of an odd-shaped parcel. The intent is to grow the Christmas trees on the site here, and then simply harvest them on site when the time comes and replant, and then sell them off site. So it wouldn't be a location for pickup and purchase of the trees, but growing of them. So you can see on the right side of the plan there, that's a gravel access area and small parking lot there that's accessed off of an existing curb cut at that location. We've conservatively treated that as impervious, even though it's technically a gravel parking lot. So we're managing runoff from that with a small infiltration trench, pea stone diaphragm for pretreatment and infiltration. As you can imagine, there's really no stormwater management features of any, or stormwater management systems of any kind on the site today. So some of that flow from Route 1, sheet flows off into this area and ultimately into the BVW. So this infiltration trench alone will provide some good inherent improvements over the existing conditions. The remainder of the site, again, will be planting area, essentially. And then you can see on the right side of that gravel drive there's actually an existing culvert that manages runoff from several catch basins in Route 1. There's also another one on the left side of the page that you can see on the left edge of the screen there. Both of them are very poorly maintained, to say the least. They've been mostly buried over time with accumulated sediment and overgrown. So the applicant's kind of taken it upon themselves to open up and free up the flow from those culverts and create a formal grass swale with check dams, stone check dams along the way to provide additional infiltration and treatment that's not achieved today prior to that discharge into the BVW. So that's an additional great improvement that the applicant's going ahead and taking care of as part of the project. Again, meeting all of the mass stormwater standards, including infiltration, treatment, recharge, and peak rate attenuation, and taking care of those existing culverts that, again, discharge stormwater from off of the property associated with the highway. I'll just point out that there is proposed work associated with the planting area within what's identified, I think, by the bylaws as undisturbed buffer area. In reality, it's grassed, it's maintained grassed area, right? That's regularly maintained. So it doesn't necessarily qualify as undisturbed buffer area, but I think by the letter of the law and the definition, it's that 25-foot setback. So I just want to point out that we did conservatively request a waiver for planting within that 25-foot buffer, although we're keeping all of that work within the existing maintained grassed area. I think that covers most of what I wanted to touch on at a high level, but happy to answer any questions and dive into any more detail. And thank you again for the time tonight.
Thank you. Questions from the commissioners?
Is the grass right now mowed by the state?
I believe it's by the owner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it matter what kind of trees they want to plant?
Mr. Pitty's wondering if the type of tree affects any of the permitting.
There's a variety of Christmas trees. Is it pertinent?
So the question from Mr. Pitty is the variety of trees pertinent?
Yes.
So it certainly can be, and I understand the applicant is proposing to plant balsam firs, which is a native conifer that has a wetland status of facultative, so it can sometimes be in and sometimes be out of wetlands.
They make excellent Christmas trees. So. Okay.
Pricey Christmas trees. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Do we have anybody from the public, online or in person, to speak on this hearing this evening? Saw a few folks online. Somebody back there that I can't see. Oh, sure. If you just approach the podium and identify yourself for the record before presenting your question or comment.
Thank you.
Of course.
My name is Tony Esco, District 5, 14 Endicott Street. The idea of a Christmas tree farm sounds, so delightful. But my question is, how close is this property as it extends to Purgatory Brook? Am I in the right place there? Also, what kind of chemicals are used or fertilizers are used to grow trees? And are the trees bioengineered? Are there any other kinds of, chemicals that we should be aware of in that area in terms of what might go in runoff in that area? And as the trees mature, is this also further going to entail any, say, retail space, or will it, to sell trees eventually, or is it just farming the trees? But my concern is the integrity of that area there with runoff, with the size of the property, and all farming requires some chemicals, so I'm just curious what kind. Are they thinking of organic or non-organic? Just, if I could have a little information on that.
Yeah, I think those are great questions. So, to briefly review, there was a question about the species, which I think was sort of addressed by Mr. Pitty's question. Sounds like it's balsam firs that are being planted. I guess in that same vein, Mr. Richards, the balsam firs that are being planted, is there anything extraordinary about them worth noting, or?
Not that I'm aware of, yeah.
Okay. And then stormwater was mentioned. I think we're going to talk about that quite a bit as it relates to the proposed infiltration basin and otherwise. So I think that there may be some more conversation that comes out of review from ILEX and the commission. But I think the most intriguing question to me was the fertilizer question. So concern about the type of fertilizers used that inevitably running off or contributing to the wetland, and what type of impact could be forecast, if any. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I'm honestly not an expert in the operations of the, what the operations would be. I would say that our goal would be to use as environmentally friendly, fertilizer and means and methods, at the site as possible. And we're happy to work with, with the agent as the project moves forward to, be upfront about what would be utilized and the means and methods of how those are applied. I think there's thoughtful and thorough means and methods that could be implemented to mitigate and manage any negative impacts to the BVW by containing them within the holes, the planting areas, if you will,
Yep.
and take all the necessary precautions. And imagine that could be part of the conditions of approval as well.
Yeah, I was thinking
order
the same
conditions.
thing. And I think it's a great question. The idea of contributing a bunch of nitrogen or otherwise to the wetland
Agreed, yeah.
could do a lot. So I appreciate those points that were made. Do we have anybody else from the community here to speak tonight? Sir, if you'd like to come up and just...
I know my wife asked a question.
Just,
Steve
you-
Esco, 14 Endicott Street, District 5, Town Meeting Man.
Thank you, Mr. Esco.
Is regarding the tree farm itself, is it just for growing trees, or is there going to be additional retail sales there? That's,
Sure. Mr. Richards, if you care to speak to that. I know earlier in the presentation you discussed planting, harvesting, replanting, and there was no mention of commercial activities for sales or otherwise, but feel free to...
Correct, just confirming that, yeah, there won't be any retail sale at the location.
So it sounds like no retail sale, Mr. Esco, just planting, harvest, replant kind of thing.
And then there was also a question about the distance from Purgatory Brook, or it might be planting field at this location. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I believe I ran a rough dimension. It's about 500 feet south of Purgatory Brook.
Is the parcel identifiable on that map?
Yeah, so it's parcels 8 through 14 here. So the
So there's...
parcel number 14 is the closest, which
Yeah, we didn't go on that road. Yeah, what's the measure tool say?
about 220 feet.
And maybe not the parcel. I was looking at the limit of work maybe. So it might be closer to 300 plus. And I was using an aerial, so apologies if I'm a little off. But
What's that match line looking thing coming down the page? Is that identifiable on the other sheet?
That's the proposed stormwater swale. Does this have parcel boundaries on it, the plan?
Thanks, Tess. Is a road alignment to see that turn off the turnpike.
Right.
Have to orient myself on the other sheet.
Is there an estimate on the number of trees that will be grown at one time on the parcels?
we did some quick math based on a 5 foot on center and the planting area, and came up with about 1,400 trees, somewhere in that ballpark. Might be a little on the optimistic side, but gives you a general order of magnitude.
There's so many more than I at a glance expect it.
Exactly,
I think the
right.
scale might have just been playing mind games with me. Other questions or comments from members of the community here in person or online? Don't see any digital hands raised. What do you say about this, Alex?
So, just to set the table a little bit, as far as my main concern with this, I think it's a really creative use of a parcel that is not a good one really to put a building on.
Such a strange shape, right?
Right. There are really significant carve-outs in the Wetlands Protection Act and in the town bylaw that primarily match the Wetlands Protection Act for agriculture and agricultural maintenance that allow agricultural projects to expand into protected buffer zones and wetlands after they're permitted. The carve-out is for existing agriculture. So once agriculture is permitted, it becomes existing agriculture. The commission can't not issue an order of conditions based on a use, of course. You have to base your decision on what's in front of you. But my big concern with this project is essentially trying to issue a very tight order of conditions so that what's approved stays as what's approved. Examples of some things that are considered maintenance in the Wetlands Protection Act include squaring off of irregular field edges and cutting of field edges up to 100 feet away from the edge of the field, including into wetland, is allowed. So those are things that I think we would want to sort of explicitly condition. This is sort of the one shot to permit a plan that works, that is reasonable, that allows this use on the parcel, but that doesn't sort of open the door for some unexpected ordinary agricultural maintenance activities like starting a little farm stand there or something else in the future. At the site visit that I did on Monday, I was initially sort of concerned and confused about these culverts, like the proposed swales, but it really is like almost entirely blocked up with vegetation and dirt, and so I do think that that is a good idea for the commission to permit those stormwater trenches that are proposed. I think the other thing that I would say, as far as tonight, is the commission probably, I would suggest one of two options, which is either permitting this tonight with a lengthy list of conditions, or I think that there may be some permitting with the state that has to happen. One may be a MIPA filing for a project over half an acre. Depends if it requires state action or not. It's on Route 1, and things that happen on Route 1 often do require state action. Another potential state action that might be required is a forestry management plan from DCR, or filed with DCR. So I think the questions about maintenance are really valid ones, especially with this exemption that we have for agricultural maintenance in the act and the bylaw, and getting a little more detail about what the maintenance scheme is would be, I think, worth continuing for if the commission wanted to do that. Otherwise, you could condition it so that we just receive confirmation of either we receive that or we receive confirmation that it's not required before construction starts.
Is the determining whether the MIPA or the forestry management plan with DCR are required, is the onus on the applicant to sort that out and make us aware, or how does that play out?
I would prefer to have the applicant do it, and, you know, if the state says it's not needed, send us that email from the state. But I certainly, when I spoke with our circuit rider about this, well, I spoke with someone at the Southeast DEP office who said that he did think that a forestry management plan was required.
Mr. Richards, you have anything to say about the MIPA filing or the forestry management plan with DCR? Are you aware of whether or not there's an expectation for those functions to be performed, or what?
Yeah, just speaking to the trigger, that is something that was raised at the site walk and we looked into, and we're confident that we will be under half an acre disturbance. Again, the limit of work is over half an acre, but when you look at the process and the planting of 5 feet on center and digging a small hole for each, the disturbance is well under that for the planting area, which is about 36,000 of the overall 44,000 square feet. And it's, yeah, certainly we would expect at least a third, if not less, of that planting area would actually be disturbed as part of the project. So happy to, circle up and confirm that with the town and commission to show that we're doing our due diligence. But we're fairly confident we won't trip a MIPA review.
Okay, and how about the forestry management plan with DCR?
That's certainly something we can look into, and if it's required, of course, we'll go through that process prior to
Yep.
moving forward with the project.
Alex, when we talk about disturbance, that's, I guess, the definition of the word is funny to me, right? Because I think when you think about construction and planting, disturbance in that scale and scheme is pretty significant, I guess, right? But certainly, like, these trees won't be teleported into place, and there will be some transaction in between the planting sites and otherwise. I struggle to say that it won't be disturbed at all, but I also don't know if that kind of transport and logistics, or whatever you want to frame it as, is significant enough to qualify as something that would disturb the area.
And that's why I want them to ask the state. The state gets to make that determination rather than us.
Yep. Yeah, I struggle, I guess, a little bit with some of the definitions and otherwise there.
And I would add too, with the 25-foot undisturbed buffer zone, as well as the rest of the site, the mowing there, we have the ORAD from 2019, and I started here in 2020, and there was mowing that was happening in the buffer zone and in the wetland area. We managed to bring the mowing back into the buffer zone, but that mowing has never been permitted. So I think that this may be the permitting process for that disturbance.
So part of the maintenance, or conditions of the maintenance, site maintenance or otherwise, should probably touch on that, is what you're saying? Part of the conditions, or?
Well, it's my suspicion that the area between the trees will continue to be mowed in the future.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not triggering, for example, a NIPD's permit because it's not earth disturbance.
Mhm.
But I don't think that the disturbance for MIPA necessarily has to be earth disturbance.
Well, they'll check with the state, I guess, that just further reinforces the need, I guess, right? Yep. So it strikes me that there's some follow-up with the state expected of the applicant, determining whether or not the MIPA and/or the forestry management plan are required. It sounds like we want to be very thoughtful about the crafting of the conditions associated with this, presuming we proceed with an approval here. So it strikes me that we probably need to continue to give the applicant an opportunity to liaise with the state on the items we discussed, and I think that we would value some time to reflect on the potential agricultural waivers and the conditions associated with the site, just to make sure this is done thoughtfully, because we probably only get one shot at this.
Agreed.
I agree.
And I may just add, sometimes it does take some considerable time to get in touch and get through that process with the state. So may ask that you consider drafting conditions to address that will address those. If not, if we're not able to before the next hearing, just ask that you consider that respectfully, of course.
Anil.
Noted. Anil?
Hi, Alex, quick question for you. I wanted to close the loop on the, I guess, the pest control question that was raised. So for the pest control plan, is that part of the forestry management plan, or is that something that the state would look at? I guess I'm trying to figure out where we go next with that.
So the applicant, I think, hasn't provided a pest control plan. The commission could ask for a maintenance plan as well to go with this. It seems like there's a lot of question marks about what type of fertilizer will be used, whether vehicles will be driving back and forth, carrying Christmas trees, that sort of thing.
If I may jump in again, I think one of the challenges here and why, unfortunately, I don't have all the answers is the applicant's really seeking this order of conditions in hopes of then utilizing that to secure the operational side of this, a business that will operate it, right? And that may vary a little bit dependent on who is the operator. So without getting into the nuances too much, again, want to work with the commission to make sure all these things are addressed and managed properly, but hoping that we can find a way to tightly condition this so that there's checks and balances, and we need to run those plans through the commission, through the town, before implementing the operations. But that's something that the applicant can then dig in on with, when selecting an operator. So again, just some of the things that we're working through on our end, and why, politely asking that you consider conditions to manage some of this.
Alex, maybe we can look at what we've done in the past with herbicide, pesticide, and fertilizer control, or look to some existing.
We have some standard conditions about essentially not using herbicide or pesticide in the buffer zone that are intended primarily for lawns.
So maybe we just look at that language and make sure it's tight enough for this purpose, and if not, we could add some additional special conditions to cover it.
Sure.
So are you leaning towards, developing a order of conditions list now, or?
No, not now.
No, okay,
I would-
continuance. I feel like we need more information.
And by the sounds of what Mr. Richards is describing, I don't even know if September 4th is adequate. It sounds like we need a substantial amount of time to coordinate with the state, so maybe it's more like the 25th or whatever the meeting thereafter is or something.
I think you'll have to tell us.
Yeah, we would prefer the next available meeting, and we'll do our best to,
Manage to that?
yeah,
Okay.
to come ready, with our best answers
Yeah.
then.
So I suppose I just want to make sure Mr. Richards has his marching orders before we have a motion to continue this. Alex, can we summarize what we expect from Mr. Richards?
Yeah, so it sounds like we would like to hear that you've reached out to the state to confirm whether a MIPA filing is needed and whether a forestry management plan is needed. It sounds like I'll take on putting together a draft order for you all to take a look at before the next meeting.
And that's absent of them providing what a maintenance management plan would be?
Yeah, so do we want,
I mean, do you want us to be more prescriptive, or do you want to propose something?
I think I mean, if possible, I think you being more prescriptive and having an
Okay.
opportunity to review and provide some feedback, but otherwise, we're open to,
Okay.
being more prescriptive, I think, and then,
Okay, does that
And
work for
going
you,
from
Alex?
there.
I mean,
Sure.
Yeah, okay. All right, great, thank you.
okay, thank you.
Do you want to give guidance on the requested waiver for the 25-foot no disturb? Or wait on that?
The waiver.
I think we should give guidance.
Yeah, certainly. So 25-foot no disturb, sometimes plantings, walkways, stuff like that is allowed. This seems like,
Say again, see if I can hear you.
so, sometimes when we've provided waivers
Yeah.
for these sort of activities before, it's a dirt path, it's
Got
a
it, yeah.
mowing or maintenance kind of thing sometimes or whatever. Maybe some, plantings or otherwise, but I don't know that I can recall like a commercial planting waiver being issued where such an aggressive amount of what I would anticipate disturbance would occur. What do you think about this, Alex?
I think that the commission should protect the
Yeah.
25-foot no disturb.
I'm
I think we
always
should, too.
hardcore about it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather you not even look at it, frankly. But I know that we do have some language, having reviewed it just far too recently, in there that discusses a few examples of potential reasons for a waiver, and I think that these are some of the things that are described in there or whatever. Certainly at our discretion.
Maybe late in the game to ask a question, and I know you're not a Christmas tree farmer, but so how do you cut the tree? You can't plant in the same spot the following year, correct? And do you remove that root system to then make use of that space the year after? Like, because I do think that affects the amount of disturbed land we're really talking about.
I believe so, and I believe they do it in waves so that you're kind of growing in cycles, and you're not cutting them all down at once and replanting them. Again, kind of depends on the operations, but I think you're right that you would offset
And the
and
wood
offset
balls
and
need to be
remove
removed.
yeah.
Yeah, that'll destabilize anything with a slope to it or otherwise if they get too close to an embankment or something trying to plant and then ripping root masses out of there or whatever, that seems terrible.
So no planting on an embankment. That's a condition.
I know a lot of times when trees die on the embankment, they'll even leave the root mass intentionally
Right.
because of its
The
contributing
stabilization.
factor to stabilization or
Absolutely.
whatever. So the idea of like intentionally planting, grubbing, ripping
Yeah.
root masses out of even like the 25 to 50 is horrifying, never mind within the 25-foot kind of thing. So I think that's a tough ask in my book. I'm an individual member of the commission. What do you think, Anil?
I think I need a bit more information on the pest control, given that balsam firs are prone to pests.
Yep, okay.
Okay.
Good point to punctuate. So what are other thoughts? I think I shared my opinion. We heard from Ilex
Yeah.
about the waiver request.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So it sounds like there's significant resistance to the request for a waiver to plant within the 25-foot. Is that what we're being asked for, right? Yep.
Okay, duly noted. So I'll work with the applicant and if appropriate, resubmit updated plans depending on the where we land on the approach.
Okay. Anything else before we move for a continuance? So if it would please the commission, we could have a motion to continue to September 25th.
I'll
It's
make
going
that
to be at
motion.
7:30 p.m. 25th,
Oh.
right?
Or the 4th. They asked for
Fourth.
the
Yeah, the
Okay.
fourth
Oh,
if
you said the
possible.
4th would be
Yeah.
okay?
Please,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, all right. So it would be a motion to continue to our next meeting, September 4th at 7:30 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Thank you, Ms. Quinlan. As we're done in the remote and hybrid environment, I'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members and ask you to verbally state your position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Joseph Pitti.
Aye.
And Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And thank you, Mr. Richards, for
Yeah.
hearing out all our questions
Yeah.
and being patient with us. Thank you again.
No, thank you so much for the time and the feedback and input. Thank you. Have a good
Awesome.
night.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to the Hallmark movie that's going to be filmed there.
Picture the scene,
Operations at a
the-
Christmas.
On the,
You know, I'm all in
it'll be
on that.
like the Christmas trees versus the auto dealerships.
I love it. Just picture the snowball fight
It's
over Route
Christmas,
1
it's
now.
all rosy. We're not going to be talking about the auto dealership.
Need a Route 1 centric name.
Exactly.
All right, next
Thank
up on
you.
our agenda, also under public hearings, we're going to have 61 Endicott Street, notice of intent under DEP file number 251-0560, Norwood number 2024-12. Applicant is Kevin Hulker of Norwood Commerce Center, represented by Sue Spratt of Mackenzie Engineering. Project description is an after-the-fact removal of structures and paving in riverfront area, new work to consist of partial demolition of a building, installing paved parking in riverfront area, planting and maintenance of a stormwater management system, and I believe on this one we have a request for continuance to September 4th, is that right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, David Hearn Jr. of Gelman and Cabral, on behalf of the Norwood Commerce Center. There were some issues about notice that came up during a recent meeting with Ms. Spratt and staff regarding this application, so it was agreed, suggested that we continue it, and the notices will be going out. Ms. Spratt tells me September 4th is the date we're requesting, so if you would continue it to 7:30 on the 4th here, that would be fine. We'd appreciate that.
Understood. Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Hearn. So if it would please the Commission, as described, we could have a motion to continue this to September 4th at 7:30 p.m. here at the Senior Center.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Pitty. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Quinlan. As we've done on the remote and hybrid environment, I'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members and just ask you to verbally state your position on this vote. Starting with myself, Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Joseph Pitty.
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Thanks again
Thank
for
you.
being here, Mr. Hearn.
Thank you.
Ms. Walsh, I appreciated your comment about the Hallmark.
I
It
know,
happens
love
in
it.
my house on a regular basis.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
Can't wait for the Christmas card this year.
Exactly.
All right, next up on the agenda, this is also under public hearings. We're going to be looking at 70, 74, and 76 Prospect Street. This is a notice of intent under DEP file number 251-0561. This is a state filing only. Applicant is Prospect Grove LLC, represented by Ryan Rosine of Goddard Consulting. Project description of demolition of existing structures for the construction of a subdivision roadway and associated infrastructure in buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. This was continued from July 29th.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. David Hearn Jr. of Gelman and Cabral at 30 Walpole Street on behalf of Prospect Grove LLC, which is the owner of the property as of some recent conveyances. This is a matter that you folks previously reviewed under our local bylaw some months ago, not too many months ago, and it has to do with permission we need from the Commission related to the construction of the roadway for the proposed subdivision, which had been approved a year ago by the Planning Board. The area in question is within the buffer zone for the bordering vegetated wetland. Under the state rules, there is no issue related to riverfront, which did come up when we were here before you under the local rules. This evening with me are Ryan Rosine of Goddard Consulting, who filed the NOI on behalf of the applicant, and Dan Merrican of Legacy Engineering, who has been our engineer throughout the project. So I think that Ryan is going to present for us this evening, and I'll turn it over to him, if I may.
Good evening. Yeah, Ryan Rosine with Goddard Consulting here on behalf of the applicant. If I stand over there, can you guys still hear me okay?
I think you'd be fine over there, yeah.
All right, perfect. So as you know, you've all seen, or most of you, I think there's one new member who hasn't seen this project before, but all of you should be generally aware of this. So what we have here is, we do have the bylaw stuff, but that's already taken care of. So here, if you can see on the plan, and I think Alex is pulling that up, you might have the subdivision one. Do you have this conservation plan one that has recorded, right? Sheets on it.
Yeah.
have, so the existing house there is 76 Prospect Street. It's the main house there. It also contains the swimming pool and the tennis court here. And the tennis court is the real main item that's within the buffer zone. So there's about 2,200 square feet of impervious surface of the tennis court within the buffer zone. So here you can see on the bottom right square, you can see that in green is the 100-foot buffer zone. Beyond that, you have the local bylaw riparian. You can see the BUW here to the south. So plan north is to the left. So basically, we're removing the tennis court, existing tennis court with the fence, a couple light posts, and there's some burning bush located at the end of the tennis court that we'll be removing. So this is needs to be removed for the construction of the roadway. The grading here, you can see beside it. So we have the grass strip just on the very, very edge of the buffer zone here, which is in between the roadway and the sidewalk. The sidewalk here, a 4-foot sidewalk, it's going to be about 200 square feet of impervious within the buffer zone, so it's about 2,000 square foot decrease in total of impervious within the buffer zone. And then the rest of this area here that's being regraded will be replanted with native species. We submitted a planting plan. It's the same planting plan as that was approved under the bylaw application. And the other main thing for this, besides the roadway, is the stormwater management system. And so we do have an outfall that comes into this buffer zone area, and through all the plan changes from the bylaw and planning board and peer review that happened, we created this small stormwater wetland area here. You can see down here, and that's where, from across the street on the other side, falls into here, and then there's an overflow that will eventually kind of just go into the buffer zone. So that's basically it. There's a small section over here that is buffer zone, that is forested buffer zone currently. That needs to be cut inward to match the grades, but that is going to be replanted, so there's no real loss of plants or habitat or buffer zone. So we believe that this is a total improvement of buffer zone over existing conditions. We're providing stormwater management, we're reducing impervious surface, and we're providing more native plantings and a wider diversity of plantings. So I believe that pretty much covers it. It's pretty straightforward. Dan, do you want to mention anything?
No, just that, this is exactly what you saw at the last public hearing process. Everything was reviewed by peer review consultants, and they indicated that they found all of it acceptable, the stormwater management design. The planting and restoration plan that Goddard Consulting came up with for the larger local bylaw resource area is exactly the same as we're proposing here tonight. So everything is basically the same.
Perfect. Okay. Do we have anybody from the public online with questions or comments for this hearing? Questions or comments from the commissioners?
All set.
Anything to say, Alex? Recommended
No.
next steps?
I recommend approving the plans. I guess I know there was an issue where the submitted landscaping plan didn't show the full extent of the landscaping. Did you provide an updated?
Yes. So
Okay.
what Alex is talking about, so what Dan had mentioned, so we submitted during the bylaw process, we submitted the whole riverfront planting plan. And then for this application, I kind of just took out the riverfront stuff and just did the buffer zone. But Carly mentioned to me that she thought that might be confusing to you guys and to whoever is end up doing the work. They see two different plans, and they were exactly the same, just didn't include the extent of the whole riverfront. So upon Carly's suggestion, I did resubmit the riverfront planting plan that was approved under the bylaw as part of this application.
Okay.
So that has been submitted.
So my suggestion is that that's the plan that's approved, the plan that was submitted under the bylaw order of conditions, and that otherwise that the order of conditions that is issued match the order of conditions that was issued under the bylaw.
Okay, so if it would please the commission, we could have a motion to close the public hearing and issue the order of conditions identical to the conditions as the local order.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Thank you, Mr. Prasad. As we've done in the remote and hybrid environment, I'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members and ask you to verbally state your position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh?
Aye.
Joseph Piddy?
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan?
Aye.
Anil Prasad?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you for that, and thank you for being here tonight, team.
Thank you.
Very much, appreciate it.
All right. Still under public hearings on our agenda tonight. Next up, we're going to have 825 University Ave. This is a notice of intent under DEP file number 251-0559. Norwood number is 2024-11. Applicant is Pinnacle Construction Co., represented by Dan Campbell of Level Design Group. Project description is creation of sidewalks around the facility for pedestrian travel with 2 auto charging units in the buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetland. This is continued from July 29th. I have a note.
Aye.
We provided the requested document on alternatives analysis in between the last hearing and today. You understand that it's in your electronic packets, but not in the physical packets that you received due to timing. Hopefully you've had a chance to review it. As we stated in the last public hearing, there were not a whole lot of alternatives to putting in the sidewalks. The sidewalks, the alternative was putting them in or not putting them in. As an ADA requirement, we are hoping to be able to put them in. I know I did receive one comment from ILEX yesterday, or one question from ILEX yesterday, which I can answer. She was wondering the distance of the closest point, excuse me, to the theoretic top of bank, assuming this is an intermittent stream. In this case, the closest point would be the top of the existing riprap, which would be 8.67 feet from the first observable break-in slope. So our closest point would be 8.67 feet to the water going through this channel. Excuse me, we also formally asked for the waiver as requested for work inside the 25-foot buffer for areas that are previously disturbed. As stated last time, there are utilities currently in those areas, although it is grass, not pavement.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Questions from the commissioners?
What's the ramifications of not installing the sidewalk? You don't meet ADA requirements?
Correct.
And there's no other place you can locate them?
So it's pathways, it's areas of
Yeah.
egress, it's general use around the site that's currently lacking. There are certainly places that we can locate a number of different things, but it doesn't accomplish the goal of the access throughout the property or access at the points of egress, as well as points of if there was an evacuation where persons are supposed to go and combine back together in their groups. I know that some of the pictures that were taken on site by Carly showed some of those signage. So if the facility was evacuated, area A, area B, area C, area D. So it's not just a simple matter of parking spaces. And as part of the project, since we were already putting in the sidewalk, digging up the area, we were hoping to put in those 4 EV chargers as well.
So is it a code issue that's requiring you to create these access locations?
It is an overall code issue requiring us, because it's general, as I said, general use throughout the site.
Okay.
Areas of egress from the building to a public way currently do not exist.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Other questions from the commissioners?
I guess I have one more.
Yeah, please.
The desire for the EV charging stations, code related, not code related? Is it just part of your building permit approval, or?
Generally, as part of any upgrade that somebody's doing to a parking lot these days, they are absolutely installing EV chargers. As you know, any community that adopts the smart code is going to be required to put them in. You're even going to be required to put them in single-family homes. So since we are digging up the area, our client would like to do the installation at the same time. They may not put the chargers in. It's purely going to be making them ready so that we can put the chargers in.
So when you say.
Put base and put conduit in.
Yep. So when you say generally required, what does that actually mean? Is that required by the town, or is
So-
it just a best practice?
Sure. So state building code, under the SMART program, which is communities that have adopted any of the energy efficiency programs, are required now to put in EV chargers for any use. I do not believe that Norwood is yet one of them because they are their own municipal power source.
Right.
However, as a general building code requirement, it is becoming more and more prevalent, and it would be counterproductive to have this area dug up and not do an installation such as this.
If I may, I can clarify that Norwood has adopted the specialized stretch energy code, which does require, that was at our last town meeting, which does require the installation of EV chargers when there's a new use or like a very significant change in the building or the site design. These chargers were not required by the specialized stretch code. This is sort of the owner of, not the owner actually, the tenant of this property, just wanting to sort of do it for their employees, is my understanding. But the EV chargers are in the existing parking lot area.
The portion that is not would be the conduit, and we did talk last time that if the commission requested, we certainly could move that conduit a little closer to the concrete walk, not as it penetrates the building because we're going around the existing landscaping and we're going into the electric room, but certainly as we go around that landscaping, the middle portion of the site, say from here to here, certainly could come a little closer to the concrete walk if that was the request. We would not want to dig up the existing walkway, but we certainly could move it closer.
I'm curious to hear what Ilex has to say about this generally and more specifically about the waiver request and associated alternatives analysis.
I do think that moving the proposed conduit away from the water is a good idea, and having it sort of hug the concrete walkway. The commission's purview is protecting wetland resources, and I think myself and maybe some members of the commission are struggling with that because there is a really reasonable desire for better circulation on the site. And I have a suggestion about how this plan could be done in a way that was more protective of wetland resources, or could be conditioned in a way that was more protective of wetland resources, which is to limit the size of this proposed walkway to 3 feet, which is the minimum allowable for ADA requirements, and to require that it be constructed out of a pervious material, which I think the applicant indicated at the last meeting was something they would be willing to do. And then the area where they're proposing to put this asphalt sidewalk, which maybe you can confirm, Dan, from the scale, it looks to me like it's 8 feet wide or 10 feet wide as proposed.
The sidewalk?
Yeah.
So the sidewalk was matching existing. It's 7 feet wide.
Okay.
The thinnest we can go is 42 inches on an exterior sidewalk. 36 inches is for an interior pathway. So we could do 42 inches, not including the curbing. So we can go 42 inches if that's acceptable, and it can be pervious with the exception of the handicap ramp area itself. The ramps need to be concrete because they have to have tactile warning strips and things of that nature.
So, thank you for that clarification. So my other suggestion is that this area where this sidewalk is being proposed is currently a manicured grass area. Is that right, Dan?
It is currently, correct.
So my suggestion is that the remainder of that 7 feet, whether it's 3 feet or 4 feet, be converted from manicured grass to, planted with a native conservation seed mix that would be mowed annually or twice a year, so that you would have more protection for this resource and potentially something similar on the other side, which again is also currently manicured lawn. So you would end up with more protected buffer zone for the resource area while still allowing the access.
I do like that idea, but can I offer one suggestion? On our landscaping plan, we're currently planting along the driveway coming in, which is not an area we were otherwise disturbing and is outside of the majority of the resource areas. We could plant some of that and move those plantings to this area, the shrubs specifically, where they're low growing and would provide a little bit better protection than even the wetland seed mix. And it would allow us to move those plants into an area that seems to be more appropriate for the situation based upon how it's currently being permitted.
Are those shrubs native?
The shrubs are native, and that was something we talked about last time. I believe there's still one outstanding that the state recently said is not a species they want, and we will work with Ilex and Carly on making sure that all of it will be native.
We have a planting plan,
That seems reasonable.
I'm still stuck on the waiver request and the activities within the 25-foot here. Alex, is this, when we grant a waiver, it's because we're anticipating some notable improvement, right? To stormwater, to treatment, to otherwise, what are we getting out of this waiver?
So, and Dan,
feel like
please
I've
feel
con-
free to jump in.
Yeah, you can.
Sure. What I would
notes.
say, Mr. Chair,
Yep.
because I know you were unable to attend the last hearing. This area is grassed at this point, and it has irrigation lines, other equipment for irrigation that run through this entire area. It is not native by any stretch of the imagination. I believe the suggestions that Ilex has made, as well as the commission during the last hearing, certainly is going to benefit this area overall. Right now, it's a compact area that people walk over anyway.
But
So
still
putting in a
pervious,
sidewalk,
right?
well
Still
as moving
pervious.
some of these plantings, will certainly benefit the area.
So right now, it's all pervious, and I saw in the notes that in the 25 to 50, pervious pavers or some similar solution were being recommended. But inside the 25-foot, the waiver is to put impervious asphalt or something in there?
No, so my suggestion, it's this strip along here.
Yeah, there, yeah.
So my suggestion is that be required to be pervious.
Okay.
And Dan mentioned that the ramps themselves have to be impervious, but otherwise this whole strip would be pervious.
Now I understand. When I was reviewing the notes, I thought it was saying between the 25 and 50 pervious, but then inside the 25, I kept reading asphalt, and I was like, oh God.
Not what I meant.
That's okay. That's okay. That makes me feel
So-
much better.
And you know, like I said, it is, from an ADA standpoint, building code standpoint, and a federal standpoint, we are trying to provide a federally mandated area of refuge for a pathway to get persons from the building. I understand that there are overriding local rules, and that's why we're here tonight to talk about it. The reason we're offering pervious pavement for this one sidewalk and to make sure that we do plantings in an area that's otherwise fairly choked out between the riprap channel as well as some invasive species. So we can certainly benefit the area.
I'm much more comfortable now.
Yeah.
I just can't really, like, I don't understand the logic here. Like, great, 25 to 50 pervious pavers, but asphalt here? Oh, gosh. Okay, so that's good. Well, that puts my mind at significant ease compared to where I was prior to that. There was another mention, I think, in the notes about conservation markers being spaced and some maybe like flagging or a notice about the wetland. Alex?
Yeah, so that's another suggestion I have, is that next to the sidewalk, and if the commission thinks it makes sense possibly on the other side of the riprap channel as well, that there be markers placed essentially designating that there is a no disturb area there. And that makes more sense if you're doing the seed mix than if you're doing shrubs, which would likely be planted in mulch.
Yep.
I still think it could be beneficial to have that, because landscaping crews don't always, like see that invisible line.
Yeah, sure.
Agreed.
Other questions or comments? Anil's back. I saw he popped off for a moment there.
No questions, my network dropped. All right.
Right on. Recommended next steps, Alex. What do you think?
It sounds like the commission is comfortable with the plan with the suggested conditions that limit the disturbance in the 25-foot no disturb. Are you?
I am.
Okay.
Seems to be the sentiment.
So,
Mr. Chairman, may I? Mr. Chairman, Paul Morris, Pinnacle Construction.
Sure.
If we could, one carve out, I'm afraid of with the pervious pavement is not being able to get that small amount in a timely fashion. Batch plants make the pervious pavement on a per job basis and have a minimum tonnage. I may end up needing to truck this in from 100 miles away, and given the time of year, it may not be feasible. So if you could leave something in the conditions for the pervious pavement, if to the agent's satisfaction, would make every endeavor to get that mix. I'm not 100% sure I can get that mix in that small amount.
That's a deal breaker for me.
Yeah. So you're saying if you can't get the impervious, you want permission to install pervious?
I'd say go to Home Depot and Lowe's and start shopping. There's no way that that's going to be.
Yeah,
Okay, then leave it pervious then.
impervious.
and I would just suggest
You
that
want
Oh, sorry, pervious, yes.
pervious?
Yes, sorry.
I just suggest there's pervious asphalt or concrete is one way to go, but there's other ADA accessible, like pavers, for instance, that could be considered if you're not able to get the pervious asphalt.
That's fine, leave it pervious asphalt.
Thank you.
I suggest the commission just condition it such that a detail be submitted prior to construction showing a pervious material. So it could be pervious asphalt or some other material.
All right. So if you would, Alex, just review the special conditions that
Okay.
we would consider in addition to our standard orders of conditions for this.
Okay. So I would suggest that all of the additional paving, concrete, sidewalks and walkways that are within the 25-foot no disturb and the 50-foot no build buffer zones be constructed of pervious material. So that wouldn't apply to like the existing pavement where it's already impervious, but any new sidewalks or walkways. And that a design detail for the pervious material be submitted to the conservation agent for approval prior to the start of construction. I suggest a condition that the sidewalk to the, is north up on this plan?
It is.
Okay, so the sidewalk to the west side of the riprap channel be limited to a maximum of 42 inches in width, and that the remaining area between the sidewalk and the top of the riprap channel be planted with native plantings. Again, a detail of which should be submitted to the agent for approval prior to the start of construction. And that the area in between, the area directly to the east side of the proposed new sidewalk along the riprap channel include some signs indicating that there's a protected wetland resource there to be placed approximately 25 feet apart. I suggest including something like that on the other side of the riprap swale as well, where it's manicured lawn currently, in order to essentially improve the conditions for the resource area that's there. I also suggest including a finding that the riprap channel and the concrete spillway are considered to be streams under the bylaw and the Wetlands Protection Act, owing to the presence of bordering vegetated wetland upstream that feeds those streams. So it's been suggested during the course of meetings that these are stormwater features, and typically a stormwater feature would not be fed by a wetland. And given the definitions in the Wetlands Protection Act and our bylaw, it's my understanding that these features would be considered to be streams.
All right.
Okay, sounds reasonable.
If it would please the commission, then we could move to close the public hearing and approve the plan, issuing our standard order of conditions in addition to the special conditions reviewed by ILEX.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Thank you, Ms. Quinlan. As we've done in the remote and hybrid environment, I'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members and ask you to verbally state your position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Joseph Pitti.
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you for that, and thank you for being here tonight with us remotely.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Next up on the agenda, it looks like that is the last of our public hearings, and we can move into wetland issues and updates, starting with a certificate of compliance request for dam removal at Trap Hole Brook. Is that right, Alex?
Yes, I submitted this certificate of compliance request on behalf of the Norwood Conservation Commission for the dam removal of the Mill Pond Dam at Chapel Brook. This project was completed in the summer of 2022, but it had a 2-year monitoring requirement, it had 2 years of requirement to ensure that the plantings survived and were healthy, and ensure that the area wasn't colonized by invasive species. And then there was also a requirement essentially to take a series of photos every season from the same point to make sure not only that the vegetation was coming in, but also that the hydrology of the project was stable and the banks were stable and so on. So the final report on those 2 years came in last month, which finishes the last portion of the order of conditions for the project.
The stream looks awesome.
It looks awesome. There's trout in it.
Oh, yay.
Wow. That's an
That's great.
accomplishment. I can remember Al Getz telling me he hadn't seen trout there in like 10 years or something when I first joined the commission. That's incredible. Very good. Well, what do you recommend then, Alex?
I recommend issuing the order of conditions.
All right, if
Or,
you-
sorry, the...
Certificate of compliance.
Right, you already issued the order of conditions.
All right, if it would please the commission, then we could have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance associated with the dam removal at Trap Hole Brook.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Quinlan. Thank you, Mr. Pitty. As we've done in the remote and hybrid environment, I'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members and ask you to verbally state your position on this vote. Starting with myself, Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Joseph Pitty.
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Next up, also under wetland issues and updates, we have a certificate of compliance request for 3 Edgewater Drive. What do you say, Alex?
So I think we do have Bob Bowen on the line.
I think
who
I did
is
see
here
him.
to speak on this issue.
Yep. I am present.
Hi, Mr. Bowen. We hear you loud and clear.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
What do you say?
So Kevin Sanders from EBI, who was our engineer, was not able to attend tonight. He asked me to sit in his stead, so I am here. And there were a few items on the list to close out, things removing the silt packs, and there were 2 or 3 other items that we have completed. And Alex, I'm not sure if you've been to the property to inspect, but that work has been completed.
I haven't. I know Carly did an inspection, though.
Oh, okay.
How about the 2-year requirement for invasive management monitoring with reports? Where are we in the timeline of that?
So
Who was that question directed to? I don't know the answer to that.
okay, I can chime in then. We haven't received a report yet, so this fall would be the first report that we get. My suggestion is to wait until the 2 years have been completed before issuing the certificate of compliance, in order to make sure that the vegetation is stable.
What would be the date of that, Alex?
So, let's see, I'm not sure if I can pull up the order of conditions that probably says, but it would be 1 report submitted this fall, and that would include any remedial actions to be taken if needed, and then a report submitted the following fall.
So another year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree with Alex's recommendation that we should hold on the certificate of compliance until the 2-year management monitoring has been completed.
Agree.
So with that in mind, Alex, then would we have a motion to deny the certificate, the request for certificate of compliance, or what?
Yeah. Yes.
If it would please the commission, we could have a motion to deny the request for the certificate of compliance for 3 Edgewater Drive, citing a need to complete the 2-year invasive management monitoring with reports prior to issuance.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Thank you, Mr. Prasad. As we've done in the remote and hybrid environment, I'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members and just ask you to verbally state your position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Joseph Pitti.
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Excellent. All right. Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Bowen. It seems that we just need to ensure that we've got the 2-year monitoring and accompanied reports completed before we issue the certificate of compliance.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you. All right. Next up on the agenda, still under wetland issues and updates, we have 1420 Boston Providence Turnpike. Update on the bond for this site. This is the Wendy's BJ's property. What do you say, Alex?
So we had a request from the owner of this property to release a bond. There was a $50,000 bond that was provided when the project was permitted in 2018. That bond has been kept. As the commissioners will likely remember, there was an issue with the stormwater basin on this site that resulted this arose when the owner had asked for a certificate of compliance, and I recommended not issuing a certificate of compliance because the basin wasn't functioning appropriately. It was supposed to be an infiltration basin. It wasn't infiltrating. Because the order of conditions had expired, in order to avoid having them file a new order of conditions, the commission issued a friendly enforcement order requiring that basin be converted to essentially a vegetated artificial wetland since it wasn't draining. So that work has been completed. We do want, just like with 3 Edgewater, some monitoring for 2 years. As far as the bond, that is not, so bonds are not a mechanism that is called out for the commission to use in the bylaw. Although the bylaw does state that any sort of like surety can be used with the consent of the applicant. So since I've been here in 2020, the commission hasn't been requiring bonds, and our town council recommended that this bond be released with the understanding that the enforcement order and the still pending certificate of compliance would be adequate to ensure that the remaining monitoring and stabilization of that basin occurs.
Seems reasonable. Any questions or concerns about this?
No.
If it would please the commission, then we could have a motion to release the bond associated with 1420 Boston Providence Turnpike.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Pitti. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Quinlan. As we've done in the remote and hybrid environment, I'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members and ask you to verbally state your position on this vote. Starting with myself, Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Joseph Pitti.
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Thank you for the guidance, Alex. Next up on the agenda, we're going to move into Conservation Commission business, starting off with a CPC report from none other than Catherine Walsh.
So, we had a meeting scheduled last week that got canceled, and we are meeting on August 21st. The only matter that's in front of us is the 20 Vernon Street. I think you remember that was you're talking about constructing some VA housing, and we decided to take that off cycle. And so it's basically an administrative meeting to figure out what we're sending to town meeting, and then later on in the month, we're going to have a public hearing where people can come and solicit or share comments and talk about it. So the original application was for $1 million. It's been reduced to $900,000, but it's still a substantive application. It is the most substantive application that we've received to date. So we anticipate that there'll be a lot of interest in the public hearing. So the plan is to go to the October town meeting. Is that right, Alex? So anyway, that's the plan for the 21st. So it should be a relatively quick meeting, and then we'll have the public meeting at a later date in August, beginning of September.
I think the public hearing is August 28th.
28th, right, yeah, okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
That'll be interesting. Seems
Yeah.
like there's some
Yeah,
contention surrounding that one.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
All right, you'll keep us appraised, I'm sure.
Will do.
All right. Next up on the agenda, also under Conservation Commission business, it looks like we have a number of meeting minutes to approve. This is for March 20th, May 29th, June 12th, and July 3rd. It's very common that we have to unravel who was here and who was not here for these meetings.
It's all included in the minutes.
That's true.
I know, well, so I actually clicked on the minutes before the meetings to see which meetings I wasn't here for, because I knew I wasn't there for one.
So,
I remember being here the day before the 4th of July.
I wasn't at that one, Kelsey.
I feel like I was here for that.
You were virtual.
Was I?
oh yeah.
Probably God knows, not even in the state.
All right, so on March 20th, Stephen, Catherine, and Kelsey were here.
Yeah.
All right.
Joseph Pitti was absent.
So Steve, Catherine, and Kelsey can vote to approve this one. So this is for March 20th.
Correct.
So we'll have a motion to approve the minutes from March 20th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
As we've done in the remote and hybrid environment, I'll go down the list of the commissioners that can vote on this and ask you to verbally state your position, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
And then we have absence from there. Okay?
Okay. And then next is
May
May
29th.
29th.
Perfect.
And we had Steve,
Stay.
Catherine, Kelsey, and Joe Pitti.
Perfect. All right, so we would have a motion to approve the minutes from May 29th, 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. We'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members and ask you to verbally state your position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Joseph Pitti.
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
Thank you for that. Next up, we have
June 12th.
June 12th.
Same group of
Same cast
Steve.
of characters. So this would be a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 12th, 2024, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Go down the list of commissioners for your position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Joseph Pitti.
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And last, we have July 3rd.
I was absent.
Just thinking about it,
That was the fast one, I believe.
working on it.
Oh, so we have Steve, Kelsey, Joe, and Danielle.
Perfect. All right, so I would ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 3rd, 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you for that. Go down the list of commissioners and ask for your position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Abstain.
Joseph Pitti.
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And that gets us through the list of minutes to approve. Next up on the agenda, still under Conservation Commission business, we have an agent update. What do you say, Alex?
Okay. I have some new things to add to the agent update. I am excited to update you all about the Cooper Park. The construction is going full steam ahead. The contractor is just about wrapping up excavating the subgrade for all of the paths and has installed the helical piles for the viewing areas over the Neponset. I was just at the Board of Selectmen meeting last night because there was Selectman Sad was interested in exploring the idea of keeping the cul-de-sac at the end of St. John Avenue rather than building the plan as approved. And the selectmen voted that that wasn't a recommendation that they wanted to make. But the instigation for that was that concern from a neighbor on St. John who was worried about some trees that haven't been cut down yet potentially being cut down for those 3 parking spaces that will replace the cul-de-sac. And the 3 parking spaces are not as far into the park as the cul-de-sac is, which means that they would displace some trees. So I have been looking into the possibility of essentially just moving those parking spaces down about 10 feet further into the park in order to retain the trees, which wouldn't,
Not a
they're
significant
not
change or whatever.
not as big a change. It's one of the very few areas in the park that's not in floodplain or riverfront area. So it's not a major change to a wetland resource area and not a major change to the stormwater. So it seems likely that that's a minor change that will be made to the plans. But we can, maybe next meeting, sort of have a, I still need to get like change orders and so on, and the commission can vote on that at a future meeting if need be.
Sort of related to that, I guess, it's probably like months ago, maybe even now, 6 to 8 weeks at least, it was mentioned that there had been a little bit of just concern, maybe like additional concern expressed from abutters about the state of construction and what was kind of going on at the time. And I think the commission at the time had talked about just trying to promote like some of the renderings of the completed project and ease some of the concerns. And this seems like an abutter related concern as well. Generally are we getting like still like an uptick in concern from the abutters surrounding the project? Have things been smoothed out and things are good, seemingly pretty good and tranquil for the time?
Things seem pretty tranquil. It's certainly more tranquil than the dam removal project, for instance. So I wouldn't say there's been an uptick in concern from the abutters. We had abutters concerned during the tree clearing phase.
I think maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
It was such an awesome effort that went into the planning of this and including the abutters. It was almost a surprise to me that there was any fear at all. But hey, you see trees getting cut down, it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
hang on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I
And
understand.
It's very hard to translate plans onto territory
Completely.
until it.
Yeah, completely. If you don't have
happens.
some type of rendering, artistic or 3D or otherwise, and you're not initiated, it looks like black spaghetti on a piece of paper. So, yeah, okay. But it
Yeah.
seems like that's all positive. What else do we?
I also wanted to mention that I talked to our CPC project coordinator, Kristen, today about the upcoming fall deadline for new CPC projects and planning to work with Carly on putting together an application for like a feasibility type study for exploring some alternatives for the Guile Pond Dam area. That was something that came up in the spring when the Sportsman's Club wanted to have their fishing derby and wanted to add sandbags.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So we, right,
Brainstorming.
using CPC funds to hire a professional to do both some like here's what's possible and talking with the community and with stakeholders about what are we really interested in seeing here, and with obviously the commission as the landowner. And then just putting a report together essentially of menu items that
I think there might be
Could
more
be
opportunity to be
pursued.
more inclusive about what the abutters are thinking too. So, yeah, I look forward to that.
So, I guess also I can give an update that I was mentioning earlier before the meeting started. I think that our department recently received a technical assistance grant and an MVP action grant, which will be used to evaluate and update regulations for climate resiliency. And so the hope is to include the Conservation Commission regulations in that, particularly the stormwater section. And it will also include the subdivision rules and regulations, the planning board site plan rules and regulations, as well as looking at the zoning bylaw and making some recommendations. For all of the regulations, we essentially want to come out with a fully completed written product. For the zoning bylaw, we really just want like a report with recommendations of sort of like what are the target areas to focus on in the bylaw, because that obviously requires a town meeting vote and a little more legwork. But, you know, is it parking or is it, you know, so on.
Great.
And then the other part of the MVP grant involves a tree planting effort that would the town received funds to be able to purchase trees to give to residents, and we would be able to hire someone to do outreach to particularly vulnerable community members to try and help target that in areas that would be most helpful. So, and then additionally hiring a part-time stormwater coordinator, and it's just a year grant, so it would just be for the year to try and get some processes in place in the engineering department, which is our stormwater authority, as well as doing outreach with the community. So I'm excited to
That's
get
awesome.
to work
Congratulations.
on
Good.
those efforts, and you all will be
Beneficiaries of that.
beneficiaries as well as lassoed into
As willing or unwilling participants.
Yes.
That sounds terrific.
Anything else, Alex?
No.
All right, I would accept one more motion then.
Hi, just a quick question there. Are we confirmed to attend the Norwood Town Day? You know, we were talking about that in the last meeting.
Yes, you do have a table reserved.
What's the
for
date?
Norwood Day. It's in September.
Yeah, I think I'd be, yeah, okay. It's a Sunday or Saturday?
Saturday, the 7th of
okay.
September.
Okay, great. Good reminder, Neil.
So that's coming right up.
It's right around the corner. You'll be there, Anil?
Yes, I will be there.
All right, I guess I'll
We gotta
come
get
too.
Carly to order us a banner. We talked about that.
Yeah, you know, you
We-
can get one printed at FedEx Kinko's and turned around in less than 72 hours,
All right,
so.
I
You want me to
know.
make a graphic, or if we have one already?
Yes.
Sure. Let's do it.
Yes, God,
Remember
I
how
know,
embarrassed we were?
Yes, I do remember how embarrassed we were.
All right, let's do better then. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
Anil, could I have one more motion then?
We're putting them out on the spot.
I'm fishing for a motion to adjourn,
Adjourn.
Anil.
Oh, sorry.
Someone-
Okay, I'll make that motion. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walsh. Thank you, Mr. Pitti. As we're done in the remote and hybrid environment, I'll go down the list of Conservation Commission members and ask you to verbally state your position on this vote. Starting with myself, Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Anil Prasad.
Aye.
Joseph Pitti.
Aye.
Kelsey Quinlan.
Aye.
All right, thank you for that.
Thanks, everybody.